Hello Pokemon fans, and welcome back to another video segment provided you by the Pokemon Evolutionaries. As always, I am Professor K, and today we'll be taking a look at another deck. Now, in the competitive TCG series, this is a deck that has been around for a long time with a lot of different variations. It's seen a lot of success, and it's also seen a lot of failure. Recently, it did manage to win one of the recent Nationals, and it provides a lot of headaches for a lot of decks. It really all depends on the metagame in your area when you go to play this deck. It's a lot of fun, there's no doubt about that, but it doesn't always work out the way you want it to, and that's why it's not quite as popular as it used to be. That deck is Accelgor Trevenant. Now, as I said, this is a locked deck. This is a deck that I chose to run in my local tournament that we had this past Saturday. Where I finished in 10th place out of 26. Overall, it wasn't a complete failure, but I had a little bit of trouble getting the cards that I needed, and that's just the way that it goes sometimes with this deck. So let's go ahead and take a look at it a little bit more in depth to see how it works. Now, to make this deck work, you have to center around one main attacker, and that first attacker's form is going to be Shelmet. We use 4 of those Shelmet because we need a constant stream of its evolution, Accelgor. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at Accelgor here real quick. Go ahead and take this version. Accelgor is a card that you want to use the second attack for, and that is Deck and Cover. It does 50 damage for double colorless energy, and the defending Pokemon is now paralyzed and poisoned. You then shuffle this Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your deck after you attack. Now, the only deck that gives this particular one a complete nightmare is Virizion Genesect. Virizion in anything, I should say. Due to its ability, Verdant Wind, it allows all Pokemon to ignore any special conditions that they would incur otherwise. So the Paralyze and Poison doesn't work out so well. But in every other deck, if you paralyze and poison your opponent's Pokemon, they are not able to attack or retreat without using an item card. Now, this is what makes this deck so devastating. If you can retreat using an item card, as soon as you shuffle Accelgor back into the deck, your opponent could potentially switch right out of that situation and get another attacker in place. But if you have the lock set up, you'll see here, we run 4 Phantump and 4 Trevenant. Now, Trevenant, his ability is Forest Curse. We saw this in Gothitelle, probably about a year or so ago, and it was a Stage 2 Pokemon. This is a Stage 1, so it allows us to get that lockout a little bit quicker. Force Cursed, as long as this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, your opponent can't play any item cards from his or her hand. So, when used in combination with Deck and Cover, you can attack, paralyze, poison, put this right back in your deck, and put out Trevenant. Now, your opponent can't play any item cards in order to get out of the lock. Now, the only card that really hurt this deck is Lysander, because Lysander is a Pokemon catcher that is now in supporter form. So your opponent could potentially go in, play a Lysander, switch out your Trevenant for something else, and then play all the item cards that they want, switch out of it themselves, and be able to attack. That's actually what happened to me a couple of times. But, I mean, you can still make it work, and it still does well. Obviously, it did win a national championship. Now, since Accelgor is a Stage 1 Pokemon, obviously you do not want to be having to attack with Accelgor every time because you need another turn to put out another Shelmet and evolve into Accelgor. So we have somebody else to do that for us. That is why we run 3 Mew EX. Now let's take a look at that Mew right here. Its ability is Versatile. If I can get my camera to focus. Versatile. This Pokemon can use the attacks of any Pokemon in play as long as you meet the necessary energy requirement. So, if you can get 2 energies on Mew, you can actually attack as long as there is an Accelgor sitting on your bench. You can attack with Deck and Cover with a Mew, a basic Pokemon, and shuffle the Mew and the double colorless energy or whatever else you have attached to it back into the deck and be able to keep your Accelgor on the bench for next turn. So, if you're doing that, you should be able to Deck and Cover over and over and over and over and over. Now, you want to keep your opponent paralyzed and poison. So you want to keep whatever active Pokemon they have up, you want to keep it in place. Because if you can keep it in place, you keep paralyzed and poisoning and attacking, you can actually move the damage off of it onto the bench and be able to knock out everything in one hit. I have seen this deck go and take 6 prizes in one turn. The way we do that, we start off with a Duskull. 2 of them, as a matter of fact, we run in this deck. Duskull evolves into Dusclops, which we run 2 of, because there are no rare candy in this deck, since it is no longer necessary like it was in Gothitelle Accelgor. So, we want to evolve basically straight from form to form to form. And Dusknoir usually is not necessary until anywhere between turn 3 and turn 5 anyway. So we have a 2-2 line, 2-2-2 line of Duskull, Dusclops, and Dusknoir. Dusknoir's ability is Sinister Hand. Sinister Hand, as often as you like during your turn before you attack, you may move 1 damage counter from your opponent's Pokemon to another of your opponent's Pokemon. So as I said, if you have an active Pokemon in play from your opponent that you are attacking over and over and over again with deck and cover, you're paralyzing it, it can't move, you keep throwing up Trevenant, putting the item lock back into play, they're potentially stuck there forever while you continue to move damage away from your opponent's active Pokemon and onto their bench, knocking out everything that they put out. Eventually, they will either run out of Pokemon, or you will take 6 prizes with this deck. Now, as I said, it is a setup deck, so it does need a little bit of time, but if you can get that going, this deck is completely unstoppable and basically runs on autopilot for you. I mean, it's just incredible once you have it set up correctly how well this deck can really run. So that is our Pokemon lineup. As you can see, it is a little heavy on Pokemon. As a matter of fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16... 17, 18, 19, 21, 2, 3, 4, 24. I believe we have 24 Pokemon in this deck. It's quite a bit. But that's okay, though, because we really don't need a whole lot to make it work. In the deck, we only have 4 double colorless energies. That is it. That is your entire energy for the deck. 4 single cards. Now, the way you want to do this is be able to run through your deck as fast as possible, which is pretty easy to do with the right help. Now, to do that, we have some supporters. We don't run a really, really, really heavy line of supporters, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4 Professor Juniper. This way we can discard whatever we have in our hand and be able to draw a fresh 7 cards. You don't have any double colorless? That's fine. Throw away your hand and try to pull up another one, because you will be deck and covering, shuffling those energies right back into your deck. The smaller that your deck is, the higher the possibility that you are going to be able to pull that card on your next turn. We also have 4 N, just to shuffle cards back in, and this is a bit of a comeback deck. So more times than not, your opponent will have less prizes to take than you, so you will benefit more from this, especially as the game progresses from the beginning to mid-game. And towards late game, it disrupts your opponent's hand, making them have a small hand size, even less likely to be able to get out of the lock. And we also have 1 Colress, because you do build up a bench, and your opponent will build up a bench as well, more than likely. Being able to draw a lot of cards is a very, very good thing in this deck. That is our entire support lineup for this deck. Just 9 draw supporters. For our item cards, we have 4 Evosoda. Evosoda allows us to search our deck for a Pokemon that evolves from one of our Pokemon and put it on there to evolve it. Since we run all Stage 1s and Basics, this card is perfect except for Dusknoir, and you can still Evosoda from Duskull to Dusclops, and then Evosoda again from Dusclops to Dusknoir on the next turn. So you could potentially set up that Dusknoir turn 3. Now, the problem with Trevenant, it is that it has a 3 retreat cost. So in order to deck and cover, put up a Trevenant, and be able to retreat, we run 4 Floatstone. Floatstone is also good because you can attach one to a Dusknoir if it were ever to get Lysandered, or captured up to the front. Because Dusknoir as well also has a very high retreat cost. 3, as a matter of fact. Same as our Trevenant. So, Floatstone will get you out of that situation. You can immediately retreat back, put up an Accelgor, and be able to deck and cover, or a Mew, be able to deck and cover, put them back in, and put Trevenant right back in. So you will never break the item lock, as long as you have Floatstone attached. To get our Pokemon out, we have 3 Ultra Ball, and 3 Level Ball. Level Ball will get you it'll get you Dusknoir, Dusclops, it will get you Shelmet, and it will get you Phantump. For free, without having to discard anything. Ultra Ball obviously goes and gets you everything else that you need, whether it be... Oh, I'm sorry, Level Ball also goes for Accelgor as well, because it has under 98, it has 90 HP. So Ultra Ball you can get Trevenants with, you can get Mew, and you can get Dusknoir. So we have a 3-3 line of that. The deck isn't necessarily wanting to do a whole lot of damage in one turn, but when you're facing the big bad EXs and you need to accelerate it just a bit, we have 2 Silverbangle. Silverbangle does 30 extra damage to Pokemon EX, and it does help do a little bit more to be able to move it around. We don't worry about Muscle Band so much because we don't want to knock out the active Pokemon. We want to keep that out the entire game and keep moving damage away from it. So Silverbangle is used only against the Pokemon EX. We've got 2 Pokemon Catcher to bring out something if we necessarily want it, something with a bit higher HP that we can keep in that active spot longer and not worry about knocking out. We've got 1 Startling Megaphone. Garbodor does shut down Dusknoir's ability, and Trevenant's ability as well. So if you ever face that, you want to have this. Now, the chances are, if you have Trevenant in play, your opponent can't attach a tool card anyways, because tool cards are indeed items. If your opponent can't play any item cards, they can't attach any to Garbodor, then you cannot activate Garbotoxin. So there's not a whole lot of concern about Garbodor in this deck for that reason, but just in case, there always is a need for that 1 Startling Megaphone. We also have a Sacred Ash, because if you have to Juniper away your hand and throw away some Pokemon just to get a hold of some cards that you need, it is always good to have Sacred Ash. Sacred Ash allows you to shuffle 5 Pokemon from your discard pile back into your deck. Also, if you have some things get knocked out, to keep getting those streams going, because you need a constant stream of Trevenant, you need a constant stream of Accelgor, and a constant stream of Mew. It will allow you to shuffle them back in to make your chances even better that you will be able to pull that card when you need it. Now, as everything in this deck is very, very important to it, there's hardly anything that you do not need at all times. You definitely don't want to be throwing cards away. You need your resources as much as possible. You want to run 1 copy of Town Map. Town Map lets you see your prizes. Turns them all face up so you can see what you're dealing with, what's going to be hard to get, what's impossible to get, what's gone, what's in your deck. If you can see what your prizes are, you know what's in your deck if you know your deck well enough. So it's very important to be able to play a Town Map just to see what you have in there. And if you are able to take a prize, you can take the next card that you need that's most important to you as well. So Town Map is probably one of the very few decks that this fits in so well. And for our ace spec, we have Dowsing Machine. Dowsing Machine is a very good card. It gives you 1 more copy of every trainer card in this deck. So if you need an extra Juniper, you need an extra Ultra Ball, Level Ball, Floatstone, Evosoda, Silverbangle, Pokemon Catcher, Startling Megaphone, Sacred Ash, you have extra copies of everything. And in Chorus as well. So, for that reason, Dowsing Machine is the absolute best ace spec. You could run Computer Search in place to search out a double colorless energy, but once you start going through your cards, you will start drawing into them pretty easily. With me, I just had bad luck. When I played this deck, I could not get Pokemon. Even though there are so many in this deck, as I said, there's 20-something Pokemon in this deck. But I still had trouble getting to them, and I cannot for the life of me understand why. There's nothing else I could have done. It's just that way. Sometimes it's the luck of the cards. You can't really do anything about it. It's just the way it goes, and it just wasn't my time. It was N's time, however, obviously, since he did so well. But I still like the deck. It will be around for a couple more months. Once the rotation hits, obviously, this deck will be pretty much done for with the loss of Level Ball and Town Map. There's just not much else you can do with it, and not to mention Dark Explorers. You lose the Accelgor with deck and cover, so this deck is completely gone and out of format. So I would suggest playing it if you haven't played it before. Get a feel for it, see how you like it, use it for fun, and if you haven't picked it up in a while, put it together and play it at your local Pokemon League. At the very least, it's a very, very fun deck to run, and it is fun to see your opponent's face when they cannot do anything at all whatsoever. So, that's the deck. As I said, this is the build that I've got for it. I think it works very well, as long as you've got a little bit of luck on your side, as is with all setup decks. And, yeah, it's a lot of fun. So, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. As always, like, comment, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and we appreciate your support. We're growing at a very, very rapid rate, and we wouldn't be able to do it without you guys, so we appreciate it very much. Thank you all so much for that. Alrighty guys, that's it for today. Join us next time when we have something new for you. Won't be long. We've been putting something up every single day for you guys since we started, and we will continue to do that as long as it's possible. So, until next time, I've been Professor K for the Pokemon Evolutionaries, and we will see you next time.